now go to, we're in the unusual position tonight, we have no valid emergency motions, and according to standing orders then we go to motion 1. So that would be Councillor Mannix Flynn's motion.
Councillor Flynn.
Thank you very much, Ardver. This motion, as you all well know, has been, I suppose, a controversial motion, and it was subject to a lot of publicity when it was first put onto the agenda of Dublin City Council. So it's not comfortable for me to be actually dealing with this particular issue. But however, you put out these motions and you have to stand beside them and you have to come to their defence. We're in a changing Ireland, there's no question about that whatsoever, where we're dealing with amendment issues to the Constitution in relation to abortion. We're dealing with issues in Ireland where the Church doesn't have the particular stranglehold around us. And we've certainly come through the worst excesses of the Ryan report, the Murphy report, the Ferns reports, and also we have to deal with the issues of, I suppose, the Magdalene laundries down the road and also the mother and baby homes. At the centre of this motion is a band which is called the Artane Band. And this motion is not to undermine the people in that band, but it's to undermine the band that those people are actually in, because it's about that band. And that band formed part of an institution known as the Artane Institution. The band was formed over 150 odd years ago, 130 odd years ago, by the Christian Brothers. For over 100 years, children were abused, raped and tortured, and it's well documented in the Ryan report in relation to this. Is it appropriate to have the Nazi band but no Nazis in it? Would it be appropriate to have the Jimmy Savile band? No. Would it be appropriate to have the RUC band with no RUC men in it? No, it wouldn't. So it's no longer appropriate that children would march in and around Croke Park at a national event wearing the uniforms of the institution and also carrying that name. And also that the owners of that band, the GAA and also the Christian Brothers, would simply put out press statements saying that they are proud of the history of the Artane Band. When if you look at the Ryan report, when you look at the many testimonies of those individuals, like myself, who are in those institutions, it's far from glorious and it's actually far from great. There are many men like myself, I'm 60 years of age and there are some older than me, who are on suicide watch, who every time that band is mentioned or is brought out into the field, actually go into deep, deep trauma for the suffering that happened in Artane and for also those who suffered in other institutions like Letterfrack and so on and so forth, or like Fairy House. It is well documented. The Christian Brothers and their like had to be dragged through the courts, had to be dragged through the Commission of Inquiry into Child Abuse. There is no such band anywhere in the world that is standing. No such band is standing out of the end of the institutions. All the bands of all the institutions are stood down. Would it be appropriate to have the Magdalene Women Band? It would not be appropriate. So with all due respects, I would ask you to have a cordial, disciplined and mindful approach to this particular motion. I would ask that it wouldn't be inflamed like it was when it was first mentioned that children were being hurt. I didn't put these children into the Artane Band. Their parents put them into the band. Those parents have an obligation to tell those children the true history of the Artane Band. It's well known that many of those who were in Artane were sent into Artane through the process in Dublin City Council known as the Non-Attendance at School Act. So this council is an appropriate area to debate this particular issue. Remember, what happened to us in our childhood still is in our childhood, still is in there today. I have to deal with that on a daily basis. My family have to deal with that on a daily basis. I want to partake in a national sporting event, but I feel ashamed, I feel raged, and I don't want to be pitied as someone who was in the institutions. But I've yet to find somebody in any of the games that I went to who are 100% proud of the Artane Band, who want to jump up and salute the Artane Band. They all know that there's something not quite right here. So in this day and age, in 2018, as we move forward, I ask that this motion be given serious consideration and that you would support this motion. Thank you very much indeed. I would just finish by finally saying that the road to reconciliation and the offer of engagement has been handed to the Christian Brothers, has been handed to the Artane Band management over a long period of time. Even with this motion being on the agenda, no phone calls were made to us, nobody made any attempts to engage with us or our groups, and so therefore I put this motion to you, and I know that the people before profit offered me a motion which the amendment, and I thank you for your support in relation to that situation, and I would hope that I get some measure of support. I would certainly hope where we get some measure of understanding of the trauma that was faced by many of the people that I was in the institutions with. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor O'Moore.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mara. There's no doubt that what Councillor Flynn has said more than likely did go through the situation, the whole lot. But the Artane Band now is a totally different thing altogether. It's a band that has 440 people in it. It's a board run by a board of management. It's 2 trustees, 1 Christian brother and 1 from the GAA. And its mission statement is the Artane School of Music provides education in music, leadership, skills and characters. Members develop skills and talents in a caring environment. It also has the most protected child structure there is in this country at the moment. There hasn't been a complaint in the last 15 years to the management board of Artane School. You're a patron of it yourself, who was given 3,000 grant this year by DCC for a foreigner to come in and actually teach the accordion in different, or the recorder in different primary schools around the place. It gets a grant of 35,000 from the Arts and Heritage, and that's all it actually gets. Now, the Artane Band, the amendment that was actually put to it is to sue the Artane Band, go after them financially. Well, you're wasting your time going after the Artane Band financially. If you want to go after somebody financially and do it properly, it's the Christian Brothers, the religious order of the Christian Brothers that you should be chasing. It shouldn't be chasing the Artane Band or the 450 children that are going through it per year. Gurmagat.
Okay, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Alberta. First of all, I want to just say I would support any measure whatsoever which would assist anyone and help them through the wrongs of the past. However, I do think it's despicable that Councillor Flynn is asking the children of today and the families of today to pay for the sins of the past. This motion does nothing, absolutely nothing, to assist any victim or help any victim in any way, but nor was it designed to. This motion started off first with changing the name of the Artane Band. That didn't get any media attention, so we then changed it to disband the Artane Band. That didn't get much attention. He started swinging out the front windows of City Hall. That's the facts of it. It was a publicity stunt from day one, and that's all it ever will be. The hypocrisy from a councillor to come into this chamber and talk about the arts, while at the same time depriving hundreds and hundreds of young children an avenue into the arts, something that will take them off the streets, something that will make them more productive, more better, and more contributing to society in general. And we had the same hypocrisy last month, when we were one meeting we had seconding the motion to take the freedom of the city from Bob Geldof, the following morning putting the motion to give it back to him. That's the same hypocrisy that's going on here. Now, I've actually spoken to people who were in Artane around that time, and I don't agree with Councillor Flynn to say that they don't like the Artane Band. The one issue they had that was owned by the young children there that they were proud of was that band. Despite what was going on, the band was the one thing that gave them a bit of life and a bit of hope. And to disband them now is just utterly, totally senseless. It's wrong, it's immoral, it's unjust. The Artane Band today help hundreds upon hundreds of children, their families, on a voluntary basis to do something decent for this city. I would ask the City Council here this evening to put this motion in the gutter where it belongs.
Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Flynn, Councillor Flynn, I have the greatest empathy with people who suffered in institutions. The greatest empathy. Someone very close to me suffered for a number of years in Golden Bridge Convent, and is still suffering from the effects of that into their 70s. So I know firsthand the torture that was carried out on people in the institutions. The Artane School of Music now is part of our local community, Councillor. And while the excellent work they do now, and it is excellent work, it does not and never will compensate or make up for the cruelty that was carried out in that building. And it was cruelty, and it's a shame on us as a society that this was allowed to happen and they got away with it. Certainly doesn't take away from that. But, Councillor, I cannot support the disbandment of what is now part of our community, an integral part of the community of North Dublin and probably further afield. Like a lot of people around this chamber, I've been involved in football teams for a long, long time. And I know people who are involved in other aspects of community life, working with children and young people, boys and girls. And what we always say, and I think everyone agrees with this, that work is invaluable in this city. It's invaluable, Councillor, because in a lot of cases we are taking young people away from the dangers and perils of what could befall them if those organisations weren't there. And I now, at this present time, and recognising the past, Councillor, as I said to you, I count the Artane School of Music as one of those organisations. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McCartan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I won't be supporting this motion. I think it's a clear case, as the biblical quotation goes, of visiting the sins and iniquities of the fathers on the children. It is nothing more or less than that. I'm reluctant to become involved in this debate, but I was recently at a past pupils' dinner in Westland Row, which is founded by the Christian Brothers, which is in Councillor Flynn's own electoral area. And I would have asked him if he had been there that night when they talked about the great tradition in that school in Westland Row and the enthusiasm of the children. So his comments are inappropriate in terms of modern Ireland, modern Dublin, and the work of the schools. I'm not a noted supporter in Croke Park, but any time I go there, I'm enthused by the music of the band. And I think we have to take into account that this is a reminder of a difficult part of our national experience. But to take it out on these children, and the councillors, Councillor O'Toole and Councillor O'Moore, who have spoken about their experiences because it's their area, would articulate it better than I can. But this motion should be comprehensively rejected. Thank you.
Okay, councillors. Because we're running late, I'm going to ask councillors to confine their remarks to a minute from now, so we can, because we do need to revert to the agenda when we have dealt with this motion. It obviously is an important issue that people want to address. So the next speaker is Councillor Brabazon.
I have every sympathy and every empathy with every victim of child abuse, be it sexual child abuse or physical child abuse. I think whatever we do here in this chamber or in any other place in this country, our obligation as a society is to protect the children who are there now. This motion doesn't serve that in any way, shape or form. If this motion is passed tonight, what will happen? Nothing whatsoever will happen. Even if we could change the name of the band, what's the next stage? We'll be looking to change the name of Artane as a parish because it might have the same effect as the name of the Artane School Band. We cannot relieve the hurt, we cannot undo the hurt that has been done to the children that attended the Artane Industrial School or who were involved in the band in the previous era. I am of the view that the current Artane Band does a wonderful job, and over the years it has become part of the culture of Croke Park. The very fact that the GAA, our co-sponsors, are involved in it, and the very robust child protection policies that they operate, and it's there for everybody to see on their website, means that I can support the continuation of the Artane Band. I do support them, and I would roundly reject the purpose of this motion.
Councillor Paddy Burke.
Lord Mayor, I live in Artane, Dublin 5. The community supports the band. The band actually comes from the community and the whole city of Dublin. I think, with respect to Councillor Flynn, I can understand that anyone who has been placed in an institution of the type that was around them days has every right to take on the Christian Brothers, but they shouldn't take on the Artane Band. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in my view, you know. If we could convince the Christian Brothers to voluntarily remove themselves as trustees of the band, I would be very happy. But do not attack the band itself, do not attack the people in the band, and do not attack the community, because the community supports the band. Thank you.
Councillor O'Murray.
I accept Councillor Flynn's bona fides in terms of raising the issue, and we've had it out at the Area Committee, and we don't agree on this. I've read the reports that he's referred to in terms of Ryan, and there are harrowing descriptions of what happened in that institution, but it is unfair, fundamentally unfair, I think, to current School of Music members ranging in the age of 7 to nearly 70 to visit that passed upon them. That is unfair. Their only crime really is that they want to play, to learn and to play music in the context of so many other things going on. That is a good thing. And I'm not going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here. I go to Artane School of Music events. They have them in Donecarney and other places. They are great events. They have great support from the community, and I take ads in their programmes, and that they are a great community organisation. So I think the idea that we would somehow try and address that by eliminating the organisation is just not, that's not the right way to get this issue resolved. I had said to Councillor Flynn at the Area Committee that if there was mediation needed, I'd be happy to try and see can we work out a solution. But just trying to eradicate the School of Music from the community is not the way to go about it, and I don't support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Arvara. I believe the absolute antithesis of transitional justice is the re-traumatisation of victims. Councillor Flynn, in his capacity as a champion of this issue for many, many decades, when many other people were being silent of it, if he tells me that people are being re-traumatised by this band marching around Croke Park, I absolutely believe you. I think as a city and as a country, we still haven't had any reckoning when it comes to the level of institution and religious-based abuse that happened within this state, that happened for many, many decades. If Councillor Flynn, as a person who's spoken about this honestly and talked about his own personal experiences, personally wants to dance on top of the ceiling of City Hall and scream about this, well then I believe he's earned the right to do that, and for it to be called a publicity stunt in any regard I think is reprehensible, and I want to apologise to anyone that was listening at home for that being said. I don't think it's appropriate in any way, shape or form. I'll be supporting Councillor Flynn's motion. Thank you for bringing it to the Chamber. Thank you.
Can I take it you're seconding the motion, because we hadn't got a seconder. Councillor Mahan.
Thanks. First of all, I just want to say, like as Gary said, Councillor Flynn has every right to bring this motion, but it's not going to take. Nothing can take away the pain that Councillor Flynn and others endured. This motion, in my opinion, is an insult to the young people of the community that I live in and I represent. The young people that I know that are in the band now are hurt about this motion. I went to an event recently and a number of young people asked me why are we being picked on? What do we do wrong? All we want to do is play music. And just to let members know, the Artane Band School of Music takes people from all over Dublin, mainly on the north side of Dublin. The cost is accessible to all. Nobody is refused to become a member of the band. They have the highest standards any community group could have, probably even better than Swim Ireland or some of the sporting organisations. And if you meet the young people that are in this band that are former members, they're all really good members of our community and society. Like, look, Councillor Flanagan there is a former member of the Artane Band. Like, they do absolutely tremendous work in our community. This motion is an insult to Artane and the north side of Dublin and to the young people that are in that band at the moment.
Councillor McGinley.
It's just worth saying, in relation to the Artane Industrial School, I didn't need to read any reports to know about the damage that Artane Industrial School had done to many Dubliners across many generations. This is an institution that caused damage across generations in this city, and it's led to all sorts of social problems, not just on the north side of the city. So, you know, we need to recognise that. And there are people in Artane now, the children, they don't know anything about that. But just let me remind them, that is reality. The Christian Brothers were behind that, and have never taken full responsibility, I would suggest. I'm actually surprised in 2018 that this organisation is still being run by a trust. That is a newsflash to me. And I support the sentence in Councillor Flynn's, a disbandment of the trust. You know, the Christian Brothers do need to withdraw from, you know, the damage that was done, I'm afraid, cannot be undone. They've lost the credibility to continue with that tie, and I certainly would urge, coming out of this meeting, that if there is mediation, I think the School of Music does need to reorganise, and certainly that trust needs to be dissolved immediately within months. Thank you.
Councillor O'Farrell.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just want to say I've no doubting as well Councillor Flynn's bona fides bringing this motion forward, and I don't think he deserved one or two of the personal comments that were directed his way. He's coming from a place of dealing with Christian Brothers, spending time in an institution. None of us here have that personally, you know, so we don't know the history that he has, you know. So it's very easy for us to slag him off. So I've no doubt his bona fides and what he feels, you know. I not necessarily agree with everything what he's saying. What I have to say now, I suppose, concerns the hierarchy of the Christian Brothers. And there's many fantastic brothers who made a great contribution to education. And now I'm going to go into their relationship with the Artane Band, because they're no friends of the Artane Band. I'll come to that. The record looking after victims of child abuse, particularly sexual, is appalling. I would invite councillors to read the Ryan report, where the order never took any congregational responsibility for their members' abuse that took place in the institution or in the day schools. They were dragged kicking and screaming to the redress board to pay up redress. At the moment, today, they're still very adversarial in court. They threatened to put liens. They threatened to put a lien on my house when I took them to court one time because I wouldn't do what they wanted in court. They're no friends to the Artane Band. A former trustee, a province leader, Brother John Heenan, he was one of the first trustees of this present trust, in the present band, I think it was the 1990s. His actions let a teacher, a former Christian brother, stay in one of the feeder schools for 3 years. The band wouldn't know that, the parents wouldn't know that. This guy was convicted 20 years ago. He's a prolific abuser. He was convicted 20 years ago, and he was convicted again last year. And again, nobody in the community would know that. So as I said, the brothers aren't of it. I would agree with Councillor Burke that the brothers should remove themselves from the trust. As I said, they're no friends, and I would support that part of it. I can't support the motion in full because I do feel there's some great work going on in the community with the band, and I wouldn't like to see that. And I don't think Councillor. Sorry,
Councillor. In fairness to other councillors.
Okay, thank you. Just one more. I don't think that's what Councillor. He wants the kids to go on with their music. He wants that, but he doesn't want them in the guise of the Artane Band with the uniforms, and that's where he's coming from. And while I mightn't agree with him, he's every right to put that forward here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Well, I'm somewhat comforted about some of the latter contributions, because prior to those contributions we heard other councillors saying that they empathise with all the victims before going on to trash one of the victims who's in this room among us. And I just remind councillors that the genesis of this debate goes back to the run into the All-Ireland final in 2016, when the former Lord Mayor, Councillor Cllr, congratulated the Artane Band on its 130th anniversary. In other words, he was congratulating the Artane Band for the entirety of its existence. And notwithstanding the fact that it underwent some institutional change in 1970, I think, you know, had he congratulated on the 48 years post the phase when the Christian Brothers ran them in their entirety, I think that would have demonstrated a bit more sensitivity. But he demonstrated the opposite of sensitivity, which explains why he protested too much tonight. Now, I think since then the situation has obviously become very escalated, and I see no reason why the Artane Band, as it is now, can't go the extra mile in terms of dispensing with some of the trappings in terms of the uniform, altering the name, or doing certain measures that will be seen to break with the continuity of the pre-1970 organisation. Now, I received emails, as did all the councillors, from the survivors of the Artane Industrial School, and none of them articulated the view that Councillor Cllr referred to tonight of talking up the band in a good light. You know. So we can only go in terms of what we see in terms of the emails that came in. So I'm in basic sympathy with Councillor Flynn, and I think others should actually be true to the empathy they profess to express as well.
Councillor Lacey.
Lord Mayor, I've spent most of my adult life involved in youth work, and I would never do anything that would harm young people. I would do everything I possibly could to protect them. I'm also former Christian Brothers pupil. But this motion doesn't call for the Christian Brothers to be disbanded. This motion calls for the Artane Band to be disbanded. And I endorse the comments, the political comments that Councillor Cllr made. It wasn't a personal attack. He disagrees profoundly politically with he disagrees profoundly with the views
Sorry, through the chair, one speaker, please.
Put forward by Councillor Flynn, as I disagree profoundly with Councillor Flynn in relation to this issue. The facts are that the current members of the band should not be punished for wrongs that were done in the past. The current members want the name of the band to be retained, and quite frankly, I don't believe it's our business to tell them otherwise. It's up to them to decide their name, their title, and the suggestion and the link that, you know, it would be all very wrong to have a Nazi band still in Dublin. I think that's an outrageous slur on a very good bunch of people who do an awful lot of good on the north side of the city, and I'm not prepared to support that attack on them.
Mr. Heaney.
Thanks, Ardfair. I have, on a continuing basis, gone to a concert that has been organised by the Artane Band in Donnycarney Church every Christmas, and it's a concert that certainly for me brings great joy, and for the people who are in the church it brings great joy, and for the people who are in the band it brings great joy, and all in all I can say that it is a very enjoyable experience. However, I believe Mannix Flynn when he says that he and other victims relive the pain and suffering that they experienced at the hands of some Christian brothers when they see the colours of the band. And I don't think anybody else in this room has experienced what he has experienced in that situation in an industrial school. However, I cannot support what Mannix is asking us to do in the entirety of the motion. However, I think the proposals by Councillor Nisha Murray, by Councillor Paddy Burke and by Councillor Rory McGinley is something that we could all agree on will bring positivity in some shape or form for Councillor Flynn. And I would like to suggest to Ardver that maybe yourself and Councillor Murray or others might agree to become involved in some form of approach to the Christian Brothers, that they would withdraw themselves as trustees of this particular band. And maybe Councillor Flynn might agree to withdraw the motion on that basis, if you would, Ardver, agree to that. Míle buíochas.
Okay, before I bring Councillor Flynn in, he has the right to reply. I want to agree with those councillors who have said that there are other ways that this can be addressed, and I agree with Councillor Heaney that there are approaches that could be dealt with. I think most councillors who've spoken, sorry, I see you now, Councillor. and I would certainly be prepared to be involved in that process. But the motion as drafted, I believe, is misdirected. The notion of us calling for disbandment is, I believe, totally misdirected and not the way to go, and I would agree with the majority of councillors who I think it's quite clear disagree with that. Councillor McVeigh, I may have missed your indication. Do you want to speak?
Thanks, okay. I did.
Now, bear in mind, we're really limited on time now.
Yeah, I'll be as quick as I can. I just wanted to come in to support Councillor Flynn's motion. I too am a survivor of childhood sexualised trauma. Wasn't in an institutional setting, but it was nonetheless equally as difficult. And I understand what it is to have to process difficult memories and emotions every day. Unfortunately, I think it's regrettable that there hasn't been some effort made from the band to engage in a process of dialogue, because it is, I think, really important that to acknowledge where harm has been caused and to do everything that we can to try and heal that harm. So I would have liked to have seen an amendment to the motion, but I fully respect and understand the reasons why Councillor Flynn has told me that he didn't want to accept the motion. So while I don't necessarily agree with the idea of disbanding the band, because this is not an attack on the children currently in the band, I do, as I said, understand the importance of symbols. Symbols speak to us on levels, particularly those of us who have experienced something like this. They speak to us on levels that none of you can even begin to imagine. And I also want to just thank Gary Gannon for his comments and noting some of the sentiments and some of the tone of the conversations is hurtful to me and has been since this debate begun, and I'm sure it is hurtful to others, other thousands, unfortunately, of people who also in this city have suffered what we have suffered. So in the spirit of sending a message of solidarity to everybody who's had their childhood stolen, not because I want to see the band disbanded, but because I think it is important when we can to acknowledge harm and to send messages of support, I'm going to support the motion.
Okay, Councillor Rochta.
Ardvera, just listening to the debate here this evening, I respect and empathise completely with Councillor Flynn. When this motion first came up, myself and Councillor Flynn, we sat down over a cup of tea in the members' room there, and he talked me through some of his experiences, some of his personal experiences, his time spent in industrial schools, etc. And I'm really disappointed in some of the comments that were directed towards Councillor Flynn tonight. Personally, I feel it was very unjust and uncalled for. However, with the motion before us here, I see a clear distinction between, I suppose, the horrors of the past and the vibrant, fantastic band that exists today with the young people. I have an issue with the word disband in the motion, Councillor Flynn. I don't think that's fair on the young children of today, that they're punished for the sins of people in the past. In lieu of disband, if that had said rebrand or new names, new colours, new uniforms, I feel I could support it. But the disbandment, I feel, just punishes the 10 or the hundreds of young kids that just look to play music and have fun today, and I feel that's a bit unfair. So if this was changed to be rebranded or something, I feel I could support it.
Okay, Councillor Flynn.
Thank you very much, Ardvera. Thank you very much, everyone, for their contributions to this particular debate. I started this journey when I was 10 years of age, and I will be continuing, I suppose, until my death. It's very easy for people to to speak the way they've spoken. It's very difficult for us who've experienced rape and torture at the hands of the Christian Brothers. None of us here put the children into the uniforms of the institution. None of us put them into that particular band. And when they march in those uniforms, they step into us and they step into our field. We were in those institutions, and those uniforms and that band represents that institution to us. You speak to any rape victim of any childhood abuse and you get that situation. When we started out to challenge the Catholic Church, there were people in congregations, there were people in my local area that pleaded with me, please don't say that about such and such a person, you'll destroy. My own mother pleaded with me in relation to what the issues were. And then she heard it from other members of the family and other friends, and eventually the people began to realise that the cute curate or the cute priest was actually, in fact, a tormentor and abuser, etc., etc. I've no doubt that in the future that the Artane Band will reconstitute itself, will disband and reform itself. I don't believe that it has a future in the uniform and with the name. The people in Artane were never asked would they actually lend the name of Artane to the institution. It was taken from them. Now it's called St. David's. They could easily call it the St. David's Band, rechange the uniform, reconstitute the band. They're going to have to do that anyway. I can tell you this much hand on heart. I never ever set out to get publicity on this or to undermine this. I deal with my trauma on a fucking daily basis, and it ain't easy. It's not easy, but I deal with it. I deal with it, and I deal with my friends. Sometimes my friends go out and they commit suicide because no one hears them, because etc., etc. But I'm not here to seek any sympathy. I'm not here to seek any pity. I'm here as a politician. I'm here as a survivor. I'm here as a person with experience of this situation. And I personally cannot tolerate, and I don't believe any civilised society would tolerate the Artane Band in its present form. Certainly there were remarks that were made here, which are what they are. That wouldn't be the first time those remarks are made. They're entitled to make those remarks. I will continue on. I can see the motion falling. That's fine. I will enter another motion in relation to the patron of the Artane Band, which is the Lord Mayor, very shortly after this, that the Artane and the Lord Mayor desist from being the patron of the Artane Band. This is going to go on. It's going to be in your faces. I want to thank you very much for a good debate. I know that you empathise with us. I understand the difficulty that you're in. I totally and absolutely understand the difficulty that you're in. But I tell you this much. I will see the Artane Band disbanded. I will see it out of its uniform. And I will see a reconstituted process in Croke Park. Will play music without the stigma of the history of the Artane Band. It's that simple. Thank you very much.
We'll now proceed to vote on that motion. Okay. Please proceed to vote. Okay, that motion is defeated by 31 to 11 with 6 abstentions.